part-time job, Jack, Shauna suggested, not looking up from her florist magazine. I heard the shoe store downstairs is looking for someone. Me? Selling shoes? Imagine the toes. Jeanne, the lint. The doorbell rang. It was Larry Dallas, Jack's best friend, and a man whose suit was always one shade too shiny. Jack, my boy, I have an opportunity of a lifetime, Larry exclaimed, barging in. How would you three like to be the exclusive distributors for the omniscient encyclopedia of modern knowledge? Encyclopedias? Jack asked skeptically. Larry, it's 1977. People have televisions. But they don't have the omniscient. It has a leather-bound look that screams I am smarter than my neighbors. And the commission, $20 a set. You sell 5 sets, you've got $100. Against their better judgment, the trio agreed to try it. For 3 days, Santa Monica was terrorized by Jack Tripper in a clip-on tie, trying to explain the history of Mesopotamia to elderly women who just wanted to show him pictures of their cats. Chrissy, however, was a natural. Her innocent eyes and tendency to get the facts completely wrong somehow made people want to help her. And this volume is for the letter Q. Chrissy told a confused Stanley Roper, "Did you know that quicksand was invented in 1924 by a man named Quentin Sand?" "I don't care about quicksand, Chrissy. I'm trying to watch the news." "But Stanley," Helen interjected, "think how sophisticated we'd look with these on the shelf. It might cover up the damp spot behind the armchair." In the end, they only sold 1 set to Stanley, mostly because Helen threatened to hide the television remote if he didn't. The commission covered exactly 1 dinner at the pub. But for Jack, the sight of Larry trying to escape a particularly aggressive Siamese cat while carrying 30 pounds of books was worth every penny. Chapter 14, The Double Date Disaster. The Jack is Gay charade was a constant source of stress, especially when Jack actually managed to find a girl who was interested in him. This time, it was a beautiful nurse named Susan he met at the hospital cafeteria while visiting a friend. She's perfect, Jeanne. She's smart, she's funny, and she doesn't mind that I'm a culinary student, Jack gushed. And how are you going to explain the fact that you live with 2 women and your landlord thinks you're, you know? John asked, raising an eyebrow. Simple. I'll tell her you're my sisters. Fraternal twins. Very fraternal. The plan involved a double date. Jack and Susan, and Larry and, well, whoever Larry could convince to go out with him. They met at a fancy restaurant where Jack had to spend half the night ducking under the table every time he saw a neighbor. The disaster struck when Helen and Stanley Roper walked into the same restaurant. "Stanley, look, isn't that Jack over there with those 2 lovely girls?" Helen asked, waving. Jack turned into a human pretzel, trying to look sisters-like towards Susan while also maintaining the Jack persona for the Ropers. "Jack, I didn't know you were out with your relatives," Stanley grunted, suspicious as ever. "Oh, yes, this is Susan. She's my second cousin once removed. From the side of the family that nurses people." Susan looked confused. Larry tried to help by pretending to be Jack's roommate for the night. The result was a confusing mess of lies that ended with Susan throwing a glass of water in Jack's face when he accidentally called her auntie. Back at the apartment, Jack sat on the couch, soaking wet. Well, he sighed. At least the soup was good. "Jack," Jonna said, handing him a towel, "next time, just try being a brother. It's much safer." Chapter 15, The Final Bow for Now. As the year moved forward, the trio learned to dance between the raindrops of life. They were a mess of contradictions. A straight man pretending to be gay, a florist with a sharp tongue, and a secretary with a heart of gold and a head full of clouds. They stood together on the balcony one evening, watching the neon lights of Santa Monica flicker to life. The salt air was cool, and the sound of the ocean was a constant, rhythmic heartbeat. "You know," Jack said, leaning on the railing, "no matter how much we argue, or how broke we are, I wouldn't trade this for anything." "Neither would we, Jack," Jonna said, leaning her head on his shoulder. "I would," Chrissy piped up. "I'd trade it for $1,000,000 and a pony." Jack and Jonna laughed. It was the perfect ending to another week in apartment 201. The lies were still there, the rent was still due, and Stanley Roper was probably still peeping through a window somewhere. But as the trio of apartment 201 stood together, they knew they were exactly where they were meant to be. With the kisses of hers, and his, 3 was definitely company. Chapter 16, The Plumbing Crisis and the Handyman. The relative peace of apartment 201 was shattered at 6:00 a.m. on a Tuesday by a sound that no tenant ever wants to hear: the frantic, rhythmic glub 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 of a rebellious toilet. "Jack, the bathroom is becoming an aquarium," Chrissy shrieked, standing on top of the closed toilet lid as a puddle began to seep across the linoleum. Jack, still wearing his giraffe print underpants and a sleep-muddled expression, stumbled into the room. "Don't panic. I'm a Navy man. I've handled leaks on a destroyer." "This isn't a destroyer, Jack. It's a disaster," Jonna cried, rushing in with a stack of towels. "If this leaks through the floor, Stanley is going to kill us. Or worse, he'll raise the rent to cover the water feature." Jack grabbed a plunger and began a heroic, if somewhat uncoordinated, battle with the plumbing. Unfortunately, Jack's mechanical skills were roughly equivalent to his ability to keep a secret well-intentioned, but fundamentally flawed. One over-enthusiastic plunge later, and a pipe behind the sink gave way, sending a jet of cold water straight into Jack's face. "Call Roper," Jack sputtered, wiping water from his eyes. "No, if Roper comes up now, he'll see you in your underwear," Jonna argued. He's seen me in my bathing suit. A